Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. Yes, a YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet. Get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. And try to run this play in the alley.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. Text us 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim, live in Green Bay. Just jumping on here to talk a little Packers, and it seems like we've got some news breaking on the defensive coordinator. We're still awaiting complete confirmation. We're waiting for the team or maybe someone like Ian Rappaport or even Rob Domofsky or someone like that, have those credentials that they protect, right? And don't want to put out any information prematurely. But it sounds like Green Bay may have found, and I'm choosing my words wisely here, all right? They may have found their defensive coordinator, and it is one of the candidates.
Sure about that?
It is one of the candidates that we talked about earlier today. We talked about they were bringing in 4 to potentially interview. And I'm assuming those interviews have taken place, seeing that it's starting to, kind of leak out that Christian Parker may be the guy. So for those of you, wondering what the heck I'm talking about, maybe you've been living under a rock for a couple of days, Matt Schneidman tweeted this out and said he was a defensive quality control coach in Green Bay from 2019 to 2020, where he quote tweeted Ian Rappaport that said, the Packers have interviewed rising #Broncos DBs coach Christian Parker for their vacant defense coordinator job. Sources said just 32 years old, Parker has impressed. So that was obviously, I think it was earlier today or maybe even yesterday when that tweet dropped. Well, here just a little time ago, we had Andrew Murdig. I hope I'm saying that last name right, buddy. We were going to try to get him on the show. He's out running errands, but he did give us permission to share this. He feels really good about the fact that he kind of reported on this. It says, based on 2 separate sources, Christian Parker is currently in Green Bay, and I'm being led to believe he has been offered the Green Bay defensive coordinator job. No word on if it has been accepted. Okay, so that's important too. They offered him the job. Maybe he's coming back with a counter offer and wanting more money. That could be the case. It could be maybe a little more say. You know how contracts can go, right? But Andrew, like I said, chatting with him just a few seconds ago, actually about less than 5 minutes ago, he said, yeah, man, you're good to go. Share it. I didn't want to share it on here, blast it out to, 1,200 people that watch the show or whatever. And then all of a sudden have, it turned out to not be true. And then Andrew looks like he's got egg on his face. We never want to do that to anyone. But that being said, it's looking like this is probably legit. Now, will he accept it? That's the question, right? And like Andrew points out in the chat, there's no word on if it's been accepted. There's also no word on that it's been declined or any reason to believe he hasn't accepted it, right? They may just be holding out to make the announcement and make it all at one time. But on the surface, Tim, we kind of talked about Christian Parker a little bit, and we can go into more detail on it. I'm going to go to the chat real quick. It's already started. I love it, man. Yeah. So look at here.
Yeah,
all right.
there we go.
Doug Pointer said, any rumors of me accepting any position with the Packers is greatly exaggerated. I like that, Doug. I like it. Doug comes back and says, fire. Well, this is a different Doug, actually. Double Doug in here. They're doing the work tonight. He says, fire Christian Parker into the sun. JK. So love it. Paul Robertson, what? A DB coach that's not Al Harris? Twitter will not stand for this. #fire Christian Parker. Oh man!
Oh my God!
Drew says, I highly doubt Parker would reject the offer. I agree, Drew. Of course,
See, that's a great point because the
we
first
don't know
thing
the money either.
What we need to find out is where else is he interviewed? Has he been interviewed for any other DC vacancies? or any other offers. So you got to think if he is indeed been offered the job, then he's probably going to take it.
Yeah, absolutely. Jen Wright said LFG. She's fired up over it. Doug Pointer says never accept the first offer. That's right. Take it. Jen said it's on X already. Like I said, we shared the Twitter post that I've seen. I know there's several other people jumping on that now, but definitely wanted to give credit to the first person to report it, like I said, and then get his permission. Again, it may not be true, right? There's a chance of that. We want to point that out on this show, but and here's the thing: if it turned out to not be true, let's not pile on Andrew just because it didn't turn out to be true. If it didn't, then who knows? Maybe it was someone jumped the gun that gave him the info, right? Let's just give each other a little bit of grace. But I'm thinking, reading the tea leaves sound like he's probably the guy. Drew D says, I'm super pumped if Parker is the guy. So everybody seems pretty positive about this potential hire. M. Smitty, 1386. So when does the Christian Parker witch hunt start? JK, looking forward to this discussion. Listen, we're going to talk about, his resume. We're going to talk about where he's been, his coaching history. I played a video earlier today, Tim. You probably didn't get to see it. I could try to find it again maybe. But just hearing him talk, it was after practice. He seems like a very intelligent guy, very well-versed. Obviously, Coach LaFleur liked him a lot when he was quality control coach there for the defense here in Green Bay. He goes to Denver. But we're also going to point out, guys, what his position group did too, right? It's important to do that. If you see it, you got to say it, even the negative stuff. Some of you guys are going, oh, no, Clayton, I don't like how this is setting up. I'm just saying we got to right? And
right.
The same thing was said about LaFleur when he took the job, right? So, when LaFleur, took the job with Green Bay, there wasn't nobody going, this is the guy. They were immediately looking at what did he do in Tennessee? Man, they stunk on offense.
Wasn't he going to get fired in Tennessee?
Yeah, he was, right? Him and Mike
was.
Butted heads there at the end. So Mike Hebring with the super chat. Appreciate you, buddy. He said, mistake not to wait to talk to the Ravens DC coaches. This is kind of what I was talking about earlier, Mike. I know exactly where you're coming from, man. Earlier today I was talking about, I'm like, look, you can go ahead and get a jump on some of the other candidates that you're excited about, right? Get those interviews in the books and then plan on interviewing the others. But at the same time, if you get someone in and they interview and they knock it out of the freaking park and you're like, this is the guy, I know this is the guy. If you wait for those other coaches and someone else swoops in and offers this guy a DC job, interviews him, offers him a job, don't let him leave the building, that type of thing, then you could miss out on the next best thing, right? So I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I have any experience or any insight on what it's like to do hiring within the NFL coaching staff. But, these guys, obviously, they, LaFleur didn't just make this decision on his own, if indeed the decision has been made. Mark Murphy was involved. Goody was involved to a certain extent. I'm sure, Matt talked to several people in the building, right? So is it a mistake to not wait and talk to the Ravens DC coaches? I think mistake might be a little too strong of a word, because if you got your guy, you got your guy, right? And you risk losing him if you don't lock him down. But you guys know how I felt. I felt like Chris Hewitt was one of the top candidates, in my opinion. If you look at what Baltimore's done and you look at what Denver's done, I think we would all agree, Baltimore would be a better team to try to pluck from as far as a defensive coach. But it doesn't mean that's going to turn out to be the end result, right? It could be something too where the roster is just so stacked in Baltimore on defense, Tim, and that's why they're good, right? The players. It could be that there's one or two coaches in place that wasn't Chris Hewitt that's, making things really churn there in Baltimore. That could be the case. So just hard to know, really. But thank you for the super chat, Mike. We appreciate you, buddy. Let's see. Margin Cron said Parker's already running the prevent. Yeah. Here's a question. Paul Robertson says, why won't Parker run man coverage? This is a disgrace. Yeah. M. Smitty says, so does Preston move back to cornerback one? Well, fun. We did break it down earlier. And of the 4 candidates that were looking to be interviewed, 2 were 4-3 defenses and 2 were 3-4 defenses. Christian Parker was a 3-4 defense. So brace yourself. You will see Preston Smith in coverage from time to time moving forward. It will happen. So just put it this way. I will be absolutely shocked if it doesn't happen a handful of times next year. Okay.
Right.
Because that's the beast that is the 34 defense. Now, one thing that we could look at, I didn't even think
what were they running in Denver?
Let's see what they did in Denver as far as base. Yeah, there you go. They ran 7th most base. So they were in 34 base. You know what, Tim? That might have been more than Green Bay, matter of fact.
Well, looky here.
So that's going to be, you're going to see it. The reason I say that's because, like, we looked at some of the other coaches like Bobby Babich, right? And that's the wrong grab. But on Bobby Babich's breakdown here, bang, right here, you see they ran nickel 80% of the time. They ran their base defense, which would have been a 4-3 or a 3-4 for us, the least amount in the entire league. And then when you talked about Adam Dirty down in Dallas, the defensive line coach, if he were to bring in that entire defensive scheme with him, then they were running base 31st. So the Bills were dead last in base defense as far as how often they ran it, and the Cowboys were next to dead last. So now listen, that doesn't mean that those numbers are going to completely come over, right, Tim? Like it doesn't mean that they're going to come in and call the exact same defense with Denver. That may have been the conversation that Matt had with Christian Parker, if indeed he does get hired. And I'm going to continue to say if, because we don't know for sure yet. But if that was the case and he is hired, maybe Matt told him, like, hey, look, we don't want to change too much. We want to keep this. We want to keep that aspect, which you guys know in Denver with Vance Joseph being there, he comes from the Mike Nolan kind of school of thought from way back in the day. I don't know if I would consider that Fangio. I don't think I would. I think that's more along the lines of the Mike Pettin style defense.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong there. Anyway, you got anything you want to add, Tim, before we move forward here?
Just real quick, I noticed Doug in the chat, Patriots interviewed Parker, but chose an internal hire. So he has been interviewed. Thank you, Doug, for the info. That's good to know. And you want to see that, right? You don't want the guy coming into Titletown that like nobody else is looking at. So, and you're right. Numbers and stats are great. These metrics are great, but it doesn't always tell you everything about how this guy is running his defense or that secondary room. Now, if the DBs, I'm sure we'll get into the meat and potatoes of this in a little bit, but the DBs didn't look so hot on paper in Denver last year. That's not necessarily an indictment on, Mr. Parker here as a coach. So we have to remember that. You can let the numbers kind of skew your opinion sometimes, but yeah, I'm with you. This is someone who's not unfamiliar with Green Bay. We just talked about that. He spent a year here. So if you're going to be a first-time DC, right, this is a step up for him. First year as a DC, I think it gives him an advantage if he's coming into a familiar environment. He's familiar with LaFleur. He's familiar with, Lambeau and what it means to be a part of the Packers organization. So I think it could be a good thing. But again, we don't know. We have no idea yet. I guess all we know is that he's been interviewed. At least that's all we can confirm at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And Mastermind said, what position do you think Goody will pick at 25? We did 3 mock drafts yesterday, and we keep going back and forth because some people love the mock drafts. Some people hate them. I don't want to do too much of it. But when people ask, like you're asking Mastermind, we'll bring it up. It doesn't really matter what we think. You kind of go off a precedent, right? And what has Goody done in the past? It's going to be best player available, right? And if there's a cluster of players in the same tier with the same draft grade, he'll probably, I know people don't want to hear this, but he will probably lean towards left tackle, offensive tackle in general, edge defender, right? Those are the two that he really kind of, and keep in mind too, he's really, really cornerback happy in the first round, right? We've seen that over and over and over. So those would probably be the 3 that I would put my money on. But again, we don't know how the draft board is going to fall, right? And we don't even know what their draft board looks like. Like when I showed you guys my draft board, or I mentioned the consensus big board, or I mentioned Daniel Jeremiah or Mel Kiper or any of these guys, the Green Bay Packers draft board may be totally different. So, you have a position that maybe isn't as elite or as a premier position. the player is, 2 or 3 tiers ahead of the current, position that you do deem the premier position, maybe you go with them. The value's just too good, right? So if I had to guess, though, if you made me, if you say, Clayton, you have got to pick right now, not who do I want them to take, but who do you think they'll take as far as a position, I would probably have to say tackle, to be honest with you. I could just see it playing out that way more than any other position. You went edge last year. You went Devontae Wyatt the year before. You got Quay Walker the year before. They don't like to give up on their guys. Now, if you're asking me who would I like to see them take, it would be interior defensive line or cornerback, or safety. That would be mine. I would be willing to reach a touch to get the best safety in the draft because he'll probably be available at that spot. Just seeing how Kinchins is kind of fallen into the fold, along with my draft crush Newbin, which I've got my draft board here just to kind of give you guys a quick glance at it. We'll just be real fast with this. But when you look for safety here, right, on my board, and it's not finished, so keep that in mind. But when you look for safety, you don't see one there in the top 50, right? Like you don't. They would be highlighted blue, by the way, because that's a tier 2 position of importance, in my opinion. So when you see that on all my mock drafts, I ended up taking Newbin in the second round, and I actually chose Newbin over Kinchins because I liked him more. So if this draft board were to line up with the Packers, and I'm not suggesting it does, but you go to pick 25 and down, look who's sitting there at 25. Zach Frazier, center, the second best center in the draft, according to my board as it sits right now, right? Are you going to take a center in the first round? I don't know, because they took Elton in the second round, right? And I'm pretty sure they had a first-round talent on him, but it just shows you how they feel about that. But nonetheless, I appreciate the question there, whoever that was. I already dropped it down. I apologize, but nothing wrong with talking draft. You won't get scolded in here. Chad Inc. says, if Parker does get the job, I love how you worded that, Chad. Thank you for being responsible. Yep. He says, if Parker does get the job, I'm excited about his time under Evero. I'm sure he learned some good things that he can adapt into his scheme under Evero. So, let's kind of dive into his coaching history real quick, just so we can kind of get a glance at it. I believe I've got a screen grab here. Yeah, here we go. And again, Chad, good to see you in there, buddy. Appreciate you. So if we were to look at his coaching history here, 2013, he was a Virginia State graduate assistant. They're saying that's D2 school, obviously. In 2014, he was the defensive backs coach. So 2013, graduate assistant. 2014, got promoted to defensive backs coach for Virginia State. So you see his specialty is definitely with defensive backs. In 2015, 2016, he was with Norfolk State, FCS. He was the defensive backs coach there. Then in 2017, he jumped all the way to Notre Dame. Obviously, who the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are. Defensive analyst there. So he seems to be like extremely intelligent, just to be honest with you guys. When you hear him talk, and I've got a video here, he just seems like he kind of reminds you of Mike Tomlin when he talks. Yeah.
High football IQ. Yeah.
And I wish Mike Tomlin was white, because people would say, Clint, you're only saying that because they're both black. No, I'm not saying that. Calm down, you bunch of
analyze the coaches here. That's what we're doing.
When you hear him talk, though, he's just confident, man. He seems really intelligent, and he just to me, he does put off some Mike Tomlin vibes, to be honest with you. In 2018, he went from Notre Dame to Texas A&M as defensive analyst. And then in 2019 and 2020, he was with the Green Bay Packers with Matt LaFleur his first year as defensive quality control coach. And then in 2021, he went over to the Denver Broncos as defensive backs coach, and he's been there obviously through last year. So that's kind of his resume. You see he's a defensive back specialist. We talked about the main thing that these top teams are doing in the league right now, Baltimore, Kansas City, and San Francisco. They have the 3 best defenses in the league right now, in my opinion. Some people would look at DVOA and say, no, that's not true. That's okay. We can agree to disagree. But Baltimore was number 1 in points per game and points per play. Kansas City was number 2 in both categories. San Francisco was number 3 in both categories. Passing defense, Baltimore was first. Kansas City was second. San Francisco was 5th. Rush defense, 23rd, 25th, and 17th. So they're putting that run defense on the back burner. The fact that LaFleur may be targeting a coach whose specialty is with the defensive backs, I don't think that's a coincidence there, for sure.
Yep.
So,
and looking at his resume too, this gives you an insight into why he's a coach on the rise, as they say. You can see he's moving up pretty quickly here. And, to be a grad assistant and then, it's a D2 school, but then immediately be offered a coaching position after 1 year, just shows you right away, who you're dealing with. There's guys that stay at the lower rungs of coaching for several years before they ever get a shot at being a DB coach or something like that. So to see him kind of working through the college ranks, and then his NFL career is off to a blazing start here. He's already being considered for DC positions. So could be a really good hire if it does in fact happen.
Yeah, for sure. And that's the thing too. Like, people will see the stats, and I'm seeing people already kind of combing through it here. As you see, Mike Hebring said the Denver did give up 70 big ones to Miami. So there's that. Yeah, there's, like I said, their numbers didn't look good, Mike.
And we got the Dolphins at Lambeau this year coming up.
Oh, Lord have mercy. Here you guys go. Why do y'all do this to me, Tim? It's too early for this.
We don't know when. We just know who and where.
We're trying to keep this positive and look at a positive outlook. Like, hey, this guy's going to be. I think he's going to be a good hire. They see something in him. LaFleur knows more about it than us. And then Mike comes in here and says, "Oh yeah, by the way, they gave up a 70 burger." Just saying. Appreciate you, Mike. Let's see. See what else we got in the chat. Anything else? All right, let's do this. Let's hear. We played this video earlier today, and I know there, some people that weren't watching Good Morning Lambeau. So why don't we hit this video real quick? This is actually Christian Parker earlier this year. It looked like it was after practice or something. I want you guys to tell me if you get that same Mike Tomlin vibe. He speaks with confidence, seems extremely intelligent, and just seems like he's got a real grab of the game. Let's hear him.
Around the building is much different. I mean, you can feel it out here in practice. What have you seen from Coach B?
Yeah, I think he's always trying to teach. That's the main thing. Situational awareness is so important to him. He always says, more games are lost than they're won. So he wants guys to always be educated and understanding of what situation we're in and how we expect them to perform. He's very direct with his communication and language about those things, so everybody's on the same page in terms of how they're receiving that information and how we expect them to execute it.
What excites you about the rookies, Moss and Skinner, that y'all drafted?
Yeah, I think, number one, on their college tape, those guys were very versatile. They all had different skill sets, and we can, primary job, secondary job, and they fit how we want to play defense. I think as we've started off, all those guys have been very focused. The mental is really big with Coach Payton, so we want guys who can learn, that we know we can teach and mold in the way that we want them to play. Obviously, they already have the talent. Both of those guys have really taken that approach. I mean, obviously, JL hasn't been out there, but meetings, walkthroughs, he's dialed in like it's game day. And that's exactly what you want to see from young guys, and them kind of learning from the older vets and being able to find their way. Well, I think that, sometimes as coaches we can – there's a certain way we can talk upstairs and a certain way that you talk to the players. So you don't want to give them too much information. We have to streamline it for them. And then when guys have been coached for a while, then they can kind of put it in even more like layman's terms to their teammates, because it's a different perspective because they're actually out there on the field. So we have that perspective as we talk to them. But then sometimes, like the way K-Jack can talk about something to a guy might be the same message as me, but it might be another way of doing it. So however it hits their brain, whether it's, in the meeting with me, a walkthrough with me, they come off the field, I tell, hey, Justin, grab him and, go over X, Y, Z. He knows what I'm talking about, and we can kind of put that direct message to him.
This is your third head coach here. That's sort of rare. What's that been like for you?
Yeah, man, it's been, it's a blessing, to be honest with you, because, I do enjoy here. I enjoy the room. I enjoy the guys that I coach and the organization as a whole. Been able to learn from a lot of different guys and a lot of different schemes and kind of putting those all together. So, yeah, it's definitely been interesting. But I think that, now we're at a place of continuity, and we just keep building and stacking, and it's a learning opportunity for me.
All right, there you go. It was Christian Parker when he was with the Broncos earlier this year. You see what I'm saying, Tim?
Yeah, I love what he said there when he was talking about, as coaches, we have to talk different in our internal meetings and game plan sessions as opposed to when we talk to players, depending on the type of players we have. So look what we have here. We have predominantly young roster, right? So that's going to be absolutely vital in Green Bay. And then you play that off of our veterans, our Preston Smiths and our Devondre Campbells, and guys that have been in this league for a while, and they've been coached for a long time. And those are your guys that are going to help disseminate some of the more complex issues in our defense down to the, first, second, and third year guys. And you got to remember, it's going to be new for everyone, whether it's Parker or whoever ends up with the DC job. it's going to be a new look, new vibes. We're not doing. We don't want to talk about last year unless we're learning. We're going to tape and we're learning, and then we're looking forward with this new approach defensively. I totally agree with Donald Krieger here. A D coordinator with a background specializing in the secondary is probably perfect for this defense, and I would agree with that for sure. And we'll see what happens. I tell you what, I got a feeling we're going to get news sooner than later. I had told you offline a couple of days ago that I thought maybe by next Friday we'd have an idea of who our DC is going to be. I got a feeling we could maybe get an answer here in the next couple of days. So we'll see. I know everyone's excited. We just want to know who it is, right? Like whoever it is, we just want to know.
Yeah. And I love the people going, well, look, can we just wait and see? Shut up. Yeah, you can go wait under a rock. We're going to continue to talk football this offseason, but Thank you for gatekeeping. I heard someone earlier today to say it too. It was actually a podcaster was talking. I think it was earlier today. It was just like essentially said, don't waste your time digging into what the new coordinator did, what their team did somewhere else, because it would be looking totally different here. And I'm going, well, yeah, of course, but are you really telling people they're not allowed to watch the tape and see what might change? And it just cracks me up, man. I'm like, why do you care? Why do you care?
We'll see you next season, week 1 right after the preseason is over with.
Yeah, we'll be here. We'll be here
the whole time through OTAs and camp and off season. We'll see you next year. Yeah.
It really did reek of I'm not going to take the time to really dive in and understand what this coach is good at. So I'm just going to try to minimize what other people are going to want to do.
Right.
That's really what it felt like. But anyway, Drew D says,
call it what it is. Being a hater. You're a hater. It's okay.
Drew D says Notre Dame and Texas A&M are some pretty good college defenses as well. I agree, man. Some big campuses, big programs for sure. He said, I'm feeling the second round might be the sweet spot for safeties. That's what my draft board's showing. But again, when they get out there and run in their underwear, Drew, the main draft boards are going to flip, right? All it takes is one or two bad measurements for a couple of these guys and watch them sink on the board. I know my board won't move that far. I've got a perfect system set up to where the combine will affect my board, but it won't be in a just a crazy amount, right? That's why last year I felt really good about Puka Nacua, and other people were like, "Oh no, he's a day 3 guy," and it's like, I don't know, man.
Because of 1/100th on his 40 time or something.
Yeah, something crazy. Right? I don't even remember why they didn't like him, but it was just like, this makes no sense to me, man. He everything you see of him on tape, he looks like he's going to be a masterful route runner, and he's got good hands. And it's just like, I don't know what you don't like about him, but maybe it was the name. I don't know. Could have been. But let's see. Jen Wright says, I am excited if this is a go. So everybody's seeming pretty positive about it. Drew D says, it's hard for me not to get so excited that he can't live up to expectations. LOL. That's the life of being a fan, Drew. No doubt about it, buddy. AFAM Rolfs in the chat says, Paul still collects Pepsi points.
Oh, we're going to give him some.
And then Paul comes back and says, AFAM wore a Marlboro jacket to his kid's baptism. I love these guys. I say we got to get these 3 a podcast. I'm going to give them the channel one night. I'm going to get Eric Sutherland, Paul, and AFAM on here. I'm going to go, you guys have at it. I'm taking the night off. And I just want y'all to try to get us canceled on here. That's all I want. That's the goal for the whole evening. So I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's see here. What else we got here? One more. Doug Pointer says, I agree with second round for safeties, but early in the second round, we will need to trade up to get Nubin, who I think is perfect for the Packers. The mock drafts really don't matter, right? We do them for fun, and we do them to try to get a grab of, all right, where's the depth of the draft? Where's the weakness of the draft? That type of thing. And that'll steer you in the right direction in free agency on how the market is going to be hot or cold at certain positions. But I had no problem finding, getting Nubin or Kinchins in the second round with our current second round pick. So I don't think it'll be an issue as it sits right now, Doug, but we know that will all change, I'm sure, for sure. Yeah, you got it, Doug. We will be demonetized in a second if we let those 3 knuckleheads take over. Ain't no doubt about it. Mastermind says, All I want from the new DC is to call aggressive plays and use Quay Walker more in the blitz. He's too athletic and fast not to be used like Parsons. Well, I don't think we want to use him like Parsons because Parsons is now a pass rusher. So he literally just rushes the passer. Maybe he drops occasionally, but that first year, he played kind of inside linebacker, and they realized this guy can rush the quarterback. Let's get him back there. Maybe that will eventually be Quay's job, right? I don't know, but I would think that would fit more into like a Sam backer in a 4-3. So if we stick with the 34, if indeed Christian Parker is the DC, probably won't see it, right? But we'll see, man. Time will tell. Let's do this. Let's jump into some of the information. We talked about his coaching history, right? Let's talk about what Denver did good and did bad. All right. And I'm going to give you guys a little teaser here. A lot of it was bad. All right. So this isn't to be negative, but we're going to point out what Denver did, right? And then we're going to specifically key in on the secondary and just see maybe what kind of impact Christian Parker may or may not have had. And again, it doesn't mean he's going to be a great coach. It doesn't mean he's going to be a bad coach. These are just the numbers. All right. We can hit on it. So their EPA ranking all the way down the line, when they were in base 34, this is the Denver Broncos, keep in mind, 25th. When they were in nickel, 27th. When they were in dime, 20th. Against gap run, they were 22nd. Against zone run, they were 22nd. In man coverage, they were second. Keep in mind, they ran man coverage 27% of the time. Green Bay ran man coverage 23% of the time. So, jumping 4%. So, for every 4 defensive or for every 100 defensive snaps, they would have ran 4 more man coverage plays, right? If I'm doing the math right there. So that was
that'll make we need to play more man-to-man crowd happy.
Right. Now, one thing that does match up is our EPA in man. I think we were like 4th in EPA in man. But when you look at the explosive plays it gave up in comparison to the explosive plays against our zone, man coverage was more susceptible to explosive plays, but their EPA was ranked higher, meaning the players performed better. So it does the numbers do kind of lean you towards this roster is built to be more of a man coverage defense, but it doesn't matter how good you are at man coverage. That's always going to be more vulnerable to the explosive plays as opposed to a shell, zone match, quarters, spinners, cover 3 type defense. So you got to take the good with the bad there. You want more aggressive. It seems like we may get it here, right? If Christian Parker is the man, if he brings some of this philosophy over with him. It may be something where LaFleur just says, you know what, you're the new DC. I'll tell you exactly what I want. That could be the case. So just keep that in mind too. He is a young coach. It's not like bringing in a Wink Martindale where Wink, all right, Wink, it's yours. It's your baby. Go handle it, right? So zone defense, they ran zone 58% of the time. They were 30th in EPA. When they brung 3 pass rushers, they were 13th in EPA. 4 rushers, it dropped all the way down to 30th. 5 rushers, it was at 22nd. 6+ rushers, their EPA went up to 12th. Okay. They brung 6+ rushers 4% of the time. That was 17th most in the league. 5 rushers, they did it 4th most in the league at 28%. All right. So we did a lot of that in Green Bay too. Bringing 5 rushers. You guys know, especially with that 34 jam look, we like to play a little cover 1 and bring those front 5 after the quarterback, unless, of course, they did a funky shift, and then we would slide an OLB out there, most of the time Preston Smith, to drop into coverage. So pressure percentage, 34% of the time. That was 19th most in the league. Their EPA was 15th when they did bring pressure. Middle of the field close, 48% of the time. That was 10th most in the league. Their EPA was 23rd. And the middle field open coverage was 39% of the time. That's 18th most in the league. Their EPA was 24th. So if you were to build a scouting report around these guys, what you would say is they like to bring 5 rushers, right? They'll bring 4 rushers the majority of the time, but they bring 5 rushers more than most defenses, okay? And they play middle field close 48% of the time, which is significantly higher than their middle field open. That was 39%. So middle field close, single high safety, bring in 5, and they're playing a little more, they're playing more zone just like every team does, 58% of the time, but man coverage 27% of the time, 14th most in the league. So the EPAs are not beautiful, right? And so I want to point that out. All right, now that doesn't mean that they can't be great here. Let's talk about the individual performances with Denver secondary, okay? According to PFF, let's cross-check. This one will make your eyes hurt, ladies and gentlemen. The Denver Broncos, I keyed in on coverage. Coverage grade, according to PFF, we know Christian Parker was the DB coach, okay? Again, you see it, you got to say it. Let's hope we look back next year and go, didn't matter. They just had a horrible roster, and Christian Parker was a secret weapon just waiting to be identified, right? But their coverage grade was 31st in the league at 48.4. To put that into perspective, Green Bay's coverage grade was 73.5. They were 17th in the league. So now you can look at it two ways, right? One of two ways. You can look at it and go, man, our coverage is probably going to drop, seeing that he didn't have that much luck with Denver's DBs. Others can be optimistic and go, you know what? You've got Jair Alexander back there. You can't say you're bringing Savage back. We don't know for sure yet, right? Maybe he can take Green Bay's secondary that did great out as a 73.5 and flip it and make it even better. Get them close to the top 10. That could be the case, right? Let's hope that happens. But again, we have to point out they were the second lowest graded coverage team in the entire NFL last year, okay? So when we dive into the individual grades, coverage-wise, we sorted by coverage. Their highest graded cover guy, can't believe I'm about to say this. There was only 2 snaps, but was DJ Jones. He's a defensive lineman, guys. He had 2 coverage snaps, and he graded out a 76.2. Kareem Jackson, safety, had 273 coverage snaps. He graded out 76.1. Someone else pointed this out earlier. Let's be optimistic, right? Darnell Savage had his highest graded season when Christian Parker was here under Pettin. There's a little silver lining, right? Maybe if he does bring a little bit of the Mike Pettin approach back to Green Bay, maybe the safety play increases a little bit. I don't know. Just trying to look at some of the positive. Riley Moss graded out as a 65.0, but only 21 coverage snaps. Patrick Surtain II. All right, you guys know he was supposed to be, a stud coming out of the draft, right? His coverage grade last year was 64.7 under Christian Parker. Josie Jewell, linebacker, 64.2. Zach Allen, another defensive lineman. I don't know why these defensive linemen getting a lot of coverage, snaps here, Tim, but that's you may see Preston Smith out there covering a little bit.
Yeah, there we go.
Justin Simmons, safety, 63.4. I'm not going to go down the entire list, but you guys get the picture, right? Not good coverage grades, just to be completely honest about it. And again, this isn't everything, but we're gonna look at it. Now, when you look at NFL team opponent yards per pass attempt, okay, they take the amount of passing yards and divide it by passing attempts, and that gives you the opponent yards per pass attempt, right? Pretty good metric to gauge, all right, how good was our pass defense. Denver's 27th in the league at 6.9 yards per attempt. To put that into perspective, Green Bay was 18th at 6.7. So, again, take it as you will. Not trying to say, hey, we're doomed because those numbers were so bad in Denver. I don't think anyone would argue the fact that I feel like we do have a little more talent in Green Bay. I don't know necessarily in the DB room other than Jair Alexander. We didn't grade out that well either individually, but as a team, we did grade out pretty well, which coverage grades also spills into linebackers too. So you've got to kind of give Christian Parker a little bit of grace there too, right? So he's obviously wasn't coaching up the linebackers. So, yeah. Tim, what do you think about those numbers, man? Don't be too doom and gloom on me here.
No, I'm not. I mean, we joke about that, but hey, it's a different, we're not Denver. And you look at the talent we have on our team, we're not that secondary room. Not to say that, Christian Parker wouldn't have his work cut out for him here. Doing a new install, getting guys ready to go for week 1 here on a team that's on the rise. And really, it's not a secret. The defense is, the defense here in Green Bay improves. We're going to a Super Bowl. It's that simple. That's what we're away from. We're a top 10, borderline top 10 defense away from really being able to get over the hump and win these playoff games, get ourselves in position to bring Lombardi home. And I know that's the goal for this team, young or not. That's the goal every year, right? So I think that, putting them here with, Ja and our secondary, I could see potential there. And, like it was said in the chat, it's not a bad look having a DC that, is secondary minded as far as, his approach. The guy's a DB guru or DB coach his entire career. Some of our bigger concerns have come in the secondary and on the back end on some of these, when we look at the chalk talks and some of the tapes. So, I mean, I don't think the negative side of some of those numbers is all we should be looking at. We should be looking at the man, the coach, the style, what is he going to try and do? How much control will he really have? Like you mentioned, this may be a lot of, Matt LaFleur has his hand in all of these rooms. He's made that very public that, he's the head coach and he's going to have influence over the D, the special teams, and the offense, So, yeah, man, I wouldn't look too hard at the Denver numbers, Let's not forget they beat us last year. So there is that.
No doubt. Margin Cron said, as long as we can close the show with Jacob's conspiracy corner. I don't even know what y'all are talking about, but I'm on board with that. I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Let's see here. What else we got in the chat? All right. Let's just roll through it real quick. Yeah, Doug says, you guys see the picture of Tucker Kraft ice fishing, burning a grit and drinking a bush latte.
You see that?
I did see that. I said, that's my tight end.
Yeah, that's he fits in pretty good up here.
He does.
Gotta love it, man. Little beard on the back of the truck, ripping a lung dart, gotta love it.
And how about Jordan Love was he at a Marquette game? Am I thinking right?
Yeah, that was Marquette.
Pretty cool, right? Most guys exit interviews. Let's get out of the cold weather. Let's go to Cali. Let's go to Florida. Jordan just kind of
let's take a ride down to Milwaukee. Go to a game.
Yeah, let's go.
with my QB3. I love it.
Yeah,
him and Magoo hanging out. That was great.
Maybe the conspiracy report tonight should be the fact that some people thought that was Brian Gutekunst in the picture with him. That was confirmed. That was not Goody sitting at the basketball game with him. Although the Rodgers haters came out of the woodwork. Yeah, he would never go with Rodgers. When I'm going, you idiots, that's not Goody.
It's so funny. People jump on things so fast. I love it.
To try to prove a point they were making a year and a half ago. Pretty wild. But yeah, I love Tucker Kraft, man. He's playing his cards absolutely perfect, man. He knows how to fit in for sure. A-Fan Ross says Packers Total Access NASCAR jackets? ? We can probably pull that.
See that on the merch website?
Yeah, we'll work on that, man. We'll get you guys we got koozies out there, which by the way, the merch shop is up and running. We got some pretty cool stuff in there. I know people were asking before. It's not something I'm going to promote on here often, but people were burning me down about it. We got it up. We had to take it down. I felt like an absolute, failure of a podcast host because everybody was excited. We have multiple orders placed. They got canceled, but it should be up and going now. So everything's a work in progress for sure. But yeah, I didn't see it on the merch store either there, A-Fan, but I wouldn't mind to have a NASCAR jacket, right? I wouldn't
you see Paul's comment underneath there?
What did Paul say? Let's see.
In the start, we could debut those on our show.
Could you imagine those three knuckleheads sitting around in NASCAR jackets?
Oh, man.
Insulting each other constantly. Talking about the election, getting us canceled, the whole 9 yards. Jen Wright says, this D beat us.
That's what she said.
Tim, that was absolutely perfectly played. Yes, their defense, Jen, their defense did beat us. You're correct. That is correct. I like, I'd rather say it that way. Eric Sutherland says, if we want a petting approach, bring back petting. That's a fair comment, Eric. I thought about that earlier too, but to me, it kind of feels like LaFleur didn't want Patton around because Patton had a little more experience than him, And I'm not saying that to take a backhanded shot at Coach LaFleur. It's just he's kind of looking over his shoulder at, hey, this guy's got way more experience than me. Maybe he was kind of controlling the meeting rooms. You remember Aaron talking about him. Aaron loved him. Aaron was like, Coach Patton, Coach Patton, Coach Patton. Next year they fired him. That's probably another reason he was ticked off. Like, damn, every time I brag on somebody, they get rid of them, right? So you kind of understand that. But yeah, I understand what you're saying, Eric. But this may be the next big thing. This might be the next, young phenom of a coach. People forget how young Belichick was when he got started, right?
Yep.
Like he wasn't quite as young as him, but Belichick's been coaching. He's followed his dad around forever. When his dad was coaching and he was just a young boy, he was charting games and getting his experience on the sideline like that. And then, of course, Mike Tomlin keeps coming to mind. Mike Tomlin was one of the youngest coaches to get a head coaching job, right? So, maybe you strike gold like that. And like A-Fan pointed out earlier, too, if he ends up getting a head coaching job, there's draft compensation because he's a minority coach, too, because you're showing, hey, look, we're willing to hire anyone. It's not just one of those things. I love that, too, that it wasn't like we're just going to fulfill our need to interview minority coaches. It feels like they really, really like this guy right off the bat.
Yeah.
I think that
has little to nothing to do with it, right? We want the best dude for the job. Absolutely. I don't care if he's purple. It doesn't matter.
All right. Absolutely. And it's what I love about Coach Tomlin, too. Coach Tomlin was always vocal about that stuff. He had a famous quote I absolutely loved. It was on a podcast I was listening to. He said, if we had a saying, this is exactly how he said. He said, we had a saying back in the day which would get us canceled today. This is Tomlin saying this. He said, if you're race sensitive, you're a racist. Basically meaning if you include race into anything, you're a racist, right? It should have no bearing on any decisions, anything whatsoever. I thought that was cool. I got a lot of respect for Coach Tomlin, man. Talking about someone who's just done so much for the sport. Jen Wright says he will make Wyatt look like a stud in coverage. There you go. I like the positivity. Get Wyatt back there like we need that drop. We need that drop of Raji just doing the dance. You remember the dance where he put the on and after the pick six and shook his groove thing.
The Raji shimmy. Yeah.
The whole city of Chicago shook. Love that dude. Andy A. Pack in the house says he has my full support. Not Raji shaking his rear end. He's talking about Christian Parker. And he went on to say, assuming that he is actually hired, I like it. Haha, weird that the beat writers haven't said anything. I agree, Andy. That's why I'm kind of hesitant on the whole thing. I thought, why not take the pod to deep dive it in case it is true? And if it's not, just make sure we cover our bases and say, hey, we don't know for sure. But it's strange that one of them hasn't come out. And typically what happens is, I think Matt Schnaubman is as plugged in as anyone, me personally. I think he has really good communication with Coach LaFleur. The fact that they're all quiet, I think that also lends a little credence to there probably is something there, and there's something just holding up the finalization of it. So they're all probably being told by sources, nobody say a word. Don't say a thing until it's finalized, right? But if they weren't hearing anything, let's put it this way, they would come out and say, hey, I haven't heard anything about Christian Parker. They've done that type of stuff before. But the fact that they're not saying anything at all, and I poked them a little bit on Twitter, as you guys may have seen. I tagged 3 of them. I tagged Rob Domofsky, I tagged Jason Wilde, and I tagged Max Schneidman. Like, hey, is there any kind of confirmation whatsoever to this? And nothing, not a peep. So, not that they would communicate with me anyway. I don't know any of them personally. Obviously, I'm just big fans of their work. But they. That, to me, if you said, all right, why aren't they saying anything at all? I think it leans more towards they're probably hiring him, to be honest with you, because someone in the room just told him, hold it close to the vest.
Or at the very least, he's the front runner for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely. Yep, I agree. Doug says Andy Herman retweeted the original report. Yeah, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, that Andrew, the one who kind of had the first tweet there, if I could find it again, Andrew Murdy. I'm pretty sure he actually worked for Packaday too. So he's done some work with Packaday. I'm pretty sure that was in his bio. So Andy obviously going to support his guy there too, and rightfully so. He feels confident that it's true. So again, appreciate Andrew allowing us to share the tweet. And like I said, I didn't want to put him on blast and be like, well, this guy's saying it. We don't know if it's true or not. He feels really good about his source. So there you go. I'll comb back through the chat, Tim. Anything else you want to add to the conversation right now as I kind of line up through here and see what we got?
I got to think that, you'd think they're going to wait to see what happens tomorrow, like with the,
that could be,
you know what I mean? Like who else is going to be able to be interviewed? We'll find that out after, conference championship week here. So, I got to think that, if you want my best speculation, sure. Christian Parker is probably the front runner, and they probably keeping this tight lip because maybe there's a couple more interviews that need to take place.
Yeah.
I don't know.
What about this too? What about hey, yeah, I mean, you pretty much said it. I'm going to say the same thing you just said, Tim. But what if they did tell Christian? And listen, we're just, we're spitballing here, all right? To quote
Yeah.
Draft Day.
Pure speculation on our part.
What if they told Christian, "Hey, look, you're our front runner. You're going to have the job if we can't land this. We got two other candidates ahead of you that are on teams that are still playing. I don't know how common that type of activity is. It's probably rare, but that
They
you
could have
would know
been
about
vague
that.
too and just said, "Hey, you're the guy, but we got a couple more interviews. We got to
and
go through
keep
our
it at
process.
that, yeah.
Just leave it
Right.
at that."
Could have been. Yeah. But hey, for those, I know nobody's in the chat like this right now, but if you're watching this and going, well, we shouldn't be talking about it at all anyway, just don't watch. That's like the whole McAfee thing. Everybody who hated Aaron Rodgers being on McAfee, it's like, you don't have to watch. Why are you tuning in if you hate it? So, because I know there's people on Twitter, they're going, can we just not wait? Can we just wait? You can. I'm not. I'm going to have a conversation. So get over it. If you guys want to scan that QR code in the upper right for Packernet Podcast, if you'd like to subscribe to the Packernet Podcast Network, it's where you can find this podcast and other great podcasts like Jake Shabink's It's Always Draft Season podcast. Ton of content going out there. Obviously on his YouTube channel and with Packernet Podcast. Ryan Schlip with the Packernet Podcast, the podcast itself, the flagship podcast, if you will, daily podcast, great content there, obviously. And he also does Packernet After Dark, where you guys can actually get a number, call in, leave him a voicemail, and he'll play it on the podcast and answer your question or respond to your comments. So really cool setup there. Again, that's Packernet Podcast. Just scan that QR code, and that will send you directly there. Appreciate y'all supporting that. Yeah, let's see what else we got here in the chat. Chad Inc. said, I'm pretty sure Andy Herman said Parker is who he wants to. The thing I am asking, though, for people who are saying, yeah, Parker's my guy, and I'm not trying to be rude or manipulative or anything. I'm genuinely asking, why is he your guy? And the majority of the people, it seems like the answer is he's young, right? And that's great. Young, connect with the players. I got you, but I'm just not finding any hard data that says, whoa, this dude has really succeeded other than the way he's risen in the ranks, which tells me if he is the front runner and they're planning on hiring him, man, he must have knocked that interview out of the freaking park. And that's exciting. That's a plus, right? Hey, you can go in there, a little bit of pressure on your shoulders. All right, I got to perform here and convince these guys that I'm the guy. And you knock it out of the park with, the analytics, the statistics we just laid out about how bad the Broncos pass coverage was last year. That's pretty impressive, in itself to be able to approach it that way. So, yeah. All right, let's see what else we got. I see you marked one here, Tim. Let's hit it. Doug Pointer in the chat says, I frequently tell people that if you have an interview, they want to hire you. All you can do is lose it in the interview. Of course, the NFL is a strange organization.
That's a great point. I mean, if you get a call back, you're putting resumes out, you're applying, you get a call back, they want you to come in or they want to do an interview. That's a pretty good sign that they're interested in you, and you can basically only work your way down from there. You either close the deal or keep looking for a job, right? So, but yeah, he's right though. The NFL is its own monster. So,
yeah, absolutely. Mike Hebring in the chat says, "Does Matt just want a yes man again?" It kind of feels like that a little bit. Like I want a guy who's just going to do exactly what I tell him to do. Hey, look, you guys go do the work the week before prior. The scouts will bring the information. All right, here's how I think we should attack it. Yeah, Christian, here's what we should do. Here's what I think the game plan should be geared around. Go make it happen. I'm not saying that's necessarily a bad thing, but it does kind of feel like Matt, Coach LaFleur, I should say, he's not looking to hire anyone that's got more experience than him, right? And the thing that worries me the most about Coach LaFleur, and he's done an excellent job, don't get me wrong, it's working. And I love him. You guys know I went into this year going, it would take them only winning 3 or 4 games before I would think he should lose his job. I think he should be safe having the youngest roster, give him a year or two to see what he can do with this new look Packers. But, I think it's good for coaches to have coaches. And I just don't know who Matt LaFleur's coach is. Like going all the way back, just a little history lesson here. Lombardi was a basketball coach. Many people don't know this. He actually coached high school basketball. Never coached basketball in his life. Bought a handbook on how to coach basketball. And if I remember correctly, he took his high school team to the state championship, like just excelled at it, right? One of the players he coached on that, his name was, I know I'm going to butcher the name. It was Mickey. I can't think of the last name, but his first name was Mickey. And Mickey ended up coaching a basketball team later on. It was either high school or college. Bill Parcells played for Mickey. And I can look up the name, get you guys the exact name. That ended up being Bill Parcells' personal coach. So he coached him in basketball, and he knew he had fruit on the tree because he had learned from Coach Lombardi just leadership skills on how to coach and everything. And everywhere Parcells went, he took Mickey with him, right? That was his personal coach. There's many people that are like that. Bill Belichick, his dad was his personal coach, Steve Belichick, I should say. Steve Belichick Sr. That was kind of his personal coach. And then later on, he had Ernie Adams, right? Ernie Adams ended up being like ended up being Belichick's right-hand man. And he was kind of a guy that he would bounce ideas off. He was like his personal coach, essentially. They were more, I don't know, they were more even, I guess you could say, than, obviously his dad, Steve, as a coach from a coaching standpoint. But great coaches have coaches, and I just don't know who LaFleur's is,
It's probably Rich Bisaccia at this point would be your closest in that category, right?
Good point, Tim. Could be. That could be the guy that he leans on. He's got way more experience than Matt, been around the league for a lot longer. That could be, and there could be someone behind the scenes that we don't know about, right? And they just don't let you know. That could be the case. I'm just saying, on the surface, not knowing who his personal coach is, that does kind of get me going, is he trying to do all this on his own type thing, And don't get me wrong, there's plenty of people around him. He's got plenty of man hours around him to help him. But, so. All right, good stuff. I like what Donald says here. Donald says, we all said the same stuff about Matt LaFleur at first. It's very true, Donald. I remember I was the one going, we got rid of Mike McCarthy to bring in a guy that we don't even like, who didn't even succeed last year. Like he was a bad OC. Like, what are we doing here? And then he comes in and wins 13 games. You're like, oh, okay.
You call me anything you want, but don't call me that.
And then you start digging a little bit deeper and you go, oh, wait a minute. Okay. He got the most out of Jared Goff with LA. Oh, before that, he was the quarterback coach when Matt Ryan won MVP. Oh, before that, Robert Griffin III, RG3, won Rookie of the Year with him as his quarterback coach. Okay, now I'm seeing
it. And he won in Tennessee with Marcus Mariota, of all people. So,
and they had a good year, but their offense was considered bad, but still had a good year, right? As a team. And there's a lot of that comes into play too. And that might be why he and Vrabel butted heads. We heard about that coming out for sure. Here we go. My man Mano coming through in the clutch says, Clayton, it was Mickey Corcoran. That was Bill Parcells' personal coach. Give you guys something to watch tonight when you lay down. If you're like me, I put something on YouTube on the phone every night. And usually it's like words of affirmation and maybe some Bible scripts or something like that. I'm such a bad person. I need that going into my brain every night. Just trying to get a little better every day. But if I lay down and watch a documentary or something, I'll give you one. If you go to Bill Parcells of Football Life, you'll be able to find it on YouTube. You'll see plenty of Mickey Corcoran in there, and you'll get the you'll understand what I'm talking about as far as his personal coach. I think that maybe that original Football Life was called The Man in the Mirror or something like that. But man, it's such a good one. Mickey Corcoran was a no-nonsense type of guy too. I love it. I'm a big Bill Parcells dude too. I like that tough loving, that type of coach that cares enough about a player to light a fire under their rear end and tell them what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. Right. So,
right. Most young players take that wrong. They think, oh, the old man's being hard on me and he's not, he's just ragging on me. He's dogging me out. And it's like, dude, they're doing that because they love you and they see the potential that you have as a player and care enough. I mean, I know this makes me cringe, but you have to give credit where credit's due. I can't stand Detroit, but I mean, look at Dan Campbell, what he's done with that organization. It's the same thing. Those players know that dude will lay down in front of a train for them. And Absolutely. They're going to go out there and they're going to play for their coach and for each other. And So that has to be respected for sure. And yeah, you got to have a little of that in your locker room for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Andy A. Pack in the chat said there was an article that laid out his history. He has experience under Pettin, Fangio, Vance, and a couple other high-level college coaches. Spoken about highly. That's why I would be cool with the hire. Got you, man. Yeah, I knew he was under Pettin. I assumed he had Fangio ties, and I know he was under, like I said, Vance here of lately, which Vance's coaching history was pretty remarkable too, seeing how many places he had been in. Yeah, I think he's a good coach too, for sure. Let's see. Drew D says Mike McCarthy was also the unsuccessful hire himself from when he was with San Francisco. That's a good point. That's a very good point, Drew. I don't know if you guys ever seen the clip, and I don't think it's in the Legacy documentary. I think it might have been in the America's game about the Super Bowl year, but they talked about when Mike McCarthy got hired. You know, he was a quarterback coach here, I believe, way back in the day. Then he went to San Francisco, and then he came back to Green Bay. When he came back to Green Bay, when Ted Thompson hired him, he said, as soon as I walked through the door, it's like I'd never left. Ted shook my hand and said, "Welcome home, Mike." That's what he said to him. And he was like, man, this is it's so cool. You know, the ties that people still work themselves back to Green Bay.
There's truth to once a Packer, always a Packer is a very true statement. Yeah,
absolutely, man. Completely agree. All right, we're just hurling insults at each other in here in the chat now. I love it. Looks like they got someone else involved. Who we got? Margin. A-Fam got Margin involved in the rivalry. It might be a tag team match there before it's over. I don't know.
All right, hey, that's just the way we talk in the clink.
Yeah, exactly correct. Doug says Pat McAfee in the Royal Rumble tonight. Might have to watch this one delayed. I digress. Is he really going to be in the Royal Rumble tonight, Doug? If so, I'll turn it over on Peacock and check it out. I like Pat, man. I know people don't see that as important and stuff, you know, the whole wrestling thing, and they don't like it. And I don't watch wrestling either, but it was really cool to see Pat do that a couple years ago because that was like a lifelong dream of his. And for the people who talk crap about Pat McAfee, he's done nothing but be successful. And I noticed that some of the podcasters that don't like him, it just reeks of jealousy. It really does. Mm. And, you know, they're jealous of the fact that they've got such chemistry on their podcast too, that they just got a bunch of buddies together talking ball, cutting up and having a good time. I don't understand the hate. I really don't. And again, if you don't like it, don't watch it. It doesn't mean you got to try to tear it down. You know, I try not to tear things down that I don't watch. There's a bunch of stuff I don't watch. My goodness. But yeah, that's kind of cool if he is in the Royal Rumble. He's a big draw. There's no doubt about it, man. Fans love him for sure. Tim, let's wrap this big bear up. What else you got, man?
Excited to keep clicking refresh and see who the DC announcement's going to be. I don't think we're going to get anything till next week. Personally, as far as anything confirmed or even close to being official. So yeah, I mean, I'll echo Matt LaFleur's sentiment. I'm a little bummed we're not getting ready for a pregame show tomorrow with our Packers taking on the Lions. So got a couple games tomorrow to watch. Enjoy it while you can. There's not a lot of football left until next season. So just looking forward to Good Morning Lambeau tomorrow, you know, and continuing to speculate, and hopefully we'll figure out who the hell our DC is going to be here and what we're going to run, and we can start diving into all the analytics and all the things that we want to do during the off season. So looking forward to finally finding out. You know, you can be patient and also do your research. So it's an interesting time right now to be a fan. So I'm just looking forward to enjoying the last little bit of football we got left tomorrow, and then you know, onward and upward, man. We look forward going forward.
Definitely. Drew D in the chat said Pat McAfee gained success through trust with the players. The media always tries to spin anything the players say. Big difference. There you go. And I hear some people say he never asked Aaron Rodgers the hard questions. Like, it's his buddy, man. Like, why are you going to?
My knee.
Like, why are you going to try to embarrass your friends? Like, no one would do that, right? And then Aaron would never come back on the show. So what's the point? It's bad business for sure. Paul Robertson says Margin gets frustrated when his bathroom towels aren't folded correctly. I love it. Let's see. R. Showers says you don't at least talk with Wink when you think you're a legit contender. Seems weak to me. Wink's got a bad rep, man. He does. There's no two ways about it. Everywhere he's went here recently, it's ended bad. He's ended up leaving a new organization, like voluntarily, like he doesn't want to be there again, or he storms out of a meeting with coaches, and it's like, bro, how many times is this going to happen? Someone pointed out, I just knew of him leaving Baltimore was strange. I remember the insiders talking about it like, yeah, it's just they decided to part ways. So it's like they didn't see eye to eye. He goes to the Giants. He cussed them out in a meeting and left and just went to Florida. He went MIA for a few days while the rest of the coaches were doing their year-end, roundabout or what have you. That looked weird. But then someone pointed out that that's not the only two places that's happened. I can't remember where they said, but there was another place that he left the organization like that. So I don't know, man. I guess like I always say, man, if everywhere you go it smells like crap, you might want to check your boot. Probably you. Drew D says ignoring Wink is good for our culture. Hey, seriously, I think there's something to that. I really do, man. I really do. Yeah. Doug says Wink is shaking fist at Clouds guy. I love it. Our Shower says Wink is hard. We could use some edge. I don't know, our Showers. I kind of disagree, man. I think that fake tough guy stuff just doesn't work. I really do. It's one thing if you are a tough guy, yeah, that carries weight. If you're quiet and you go out there on the field, or you go out there and you coach your rear end off. But the Giants weren't, nothing to write home about this year, right? It wasn't like he came in there and bam, all of a sudden this team is just excellent. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I just look at it a little bit different than that.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
AFAM says, who's Wink? Hey, welcome to the chat, AFAM. Appreciate you, buddy. Good to see you in here tonight. Doug Pointer says, do you guys think it takes genius or respect to be a successful DC? I think a good combination of both, man. Your players have got to respect you, or they're not going to take your game planning serious. Think of that training camp video of that everybody loved to make fun of Motor City Dan Campbell, right? The Lions head coach. And you look back at some of his training camp videos where people are like, this is cheesy. It wasn't cheesy to the players. They bought in. They and he was talking, I think Jacob brought it up on the podcast the other night when he was on here with us. Being out there, they were out there running and doing two. I can't remember what they were doing. It was something strenuous. He's like, guys, I wish we didn't have to do this. I wish there was an easier way, but we've got to do it this way. We have to. I wish there was a way we could get around it, but this is what it's going to take to be great, is essentially what he's saying. I think that his team respects him. And did you see that injury list? You see how many of them are playing injured, Tim?
Yep.
But they're laying it all out there for that dude, And I'm not trying to knock our team or any other team. I'm just saying this isn't an opportunity to bash people. It's an opportunity to lift Detroit up and go, got to give them credit, man. They're all going out there playing banged up, and there's no excuses. They've inherited that grit that Dan Campbell talked about. So
yeah, respect is a huge factor. I mean, it's going to take you a long way, a lot further than the whole idea of authoritarian or disciplinarian kind of approach. I mean, look, you got 23-year-old kids with, a lot of money, and they're playing pro football. It's really hard to, if you think you're going to be some boomer screaming at the kids on the sideline and think that that's going to get results, you're sadly mistaken. The league itself is younger. This game is changing and evolving. So you got to have your players respect first. You hit it on the head, Clayton. You're not gonna give a damn what you're calling if they don't respect you. So I think that's a huge part of it.
Yeah, definitely. Mitch Staff in the chat says, has Leslie Frazier been contacted for an interview?
Hopefully not.
It's funny you mentioned that because Leslie Frazier had a falling out with Scott McDermott last year, right? So another coach that they didn't see eye to eye and decided to part ways, and then Leslie Frazier isn't getting the job as of this point, at least up to this point. I don't think Leslie Frazier's a bad coach. I'm just saying that's on the resume too, that, hey, he couldn't get along with his head coach, right? So, yeah, it is what
I think
it
he's
is.
a good coach. I really do. A lot of respect for Leslie Frazier, but you look at track record too, he hasn't gotten his defenses over the hump either,
Right. All right.
And another OG, right? Leslie's been around in the game for many years. So if we're trying to go young, I don't know if we want to look in that direction.
Yeah, for sure. Our Showers is going on a little bit of a rant in here on how all the soft DCs we had, say Capers, Patton, Rhodes, Gross. Dom Capers is a hard one for me, our Showers. How many DCs in the league have a Super Bowl ring? I'll wait.
Yep.
You know, you go back and watch that 2010, 2011 defense. Solid. Absolutely solid. So, yeah. You will know them by the fruit, right? You will know them by their fruit.
Amen.
Dom Capers' players absolutely loved him. He's a Super Bowl winning DC. He's been a head coach in 2 different spots that I know of, Carolina and Houston. Just one of those guys that's well respected around the league. Listen to Kevin Green talk about Dom Capers. You go back and watch the old tapes of the late great Kevin Green talking about Dom Capers. Listen to Greg Lloyd talk about Dom Capers and Darren Perry and all those great defensive players for Pittsburgh back in the 90s, right? Love Dom Capers. Dom Capers is a hell of a coach. Yeah. He says Capers was nice for a couple years, true, but then could it be that the league is cyclical like we always talk about? Offenses get paid too, man. They catch on, right? So
Right.
It is what it is. But all right, we're going to get out of here, guys. Appreciate y'all. We went a little long, but I could talk just straight NFL coaching all day long, man, for sure. But yeah. What is this right here? What does this even mean, Tim? Read it.
Clayton 316.
It's got the skull emoji with a beer and a truck.
Oh man, I love it.
Anytime I see the truck, I just want to hit this. There you go. Clayton 316. That's hilarious. Is there a more redneck name than Clayton, by the way? Like, seriously. I'm named after my dad, right? But it's funny, my middle name is Thomas. And people know I'm a history nerd. And they're like, oh, were you named after Thomas Jefferson? No. Thomas Edison? No, I was named after a guy named Leslie Thomas Stockdale. You know who that was? That was the night shift manager that my dad worked for at a liquor store. True story. Appreciate you.
I love how you asked me, do I know who that is, knowing that there's no way I'll know.
No way possible. And it's funny because like 6 months after I was born, Dad got fired there because he got into a fist fight. So can't make this stuff up.
Roadhouse.
Really, really did think that one through, Pops. I love you, but damn. And you know what my sister's name is? Leslie. You love it. He named his children after a guy that he never talked to again. You got to love it. Drew D say, Clayton, how do you keep your shoes so white? What are you talking about, Drew D? Oh, you seen the picture. Yeah. I'm the guy that never leaves the house. So when I do leave the house, I got a pair of Air Force Ones I throw on and they just stay clean as a whistle. Now
I'm the same way.
Now you notice I didn't wear my boots in that picture, right? If I had my boots on, you'd be like, that dude's homeless. My God. They're all raggedy and everything. I wear the same Carhartt bibs that I've wore for. Yep. I got them in 2007. No, it was 2005. 2005. I got those Carhartt bibs. They're still holding on, Tim. It's bad, but man,
I'm with you. I'm the same way. Homebody all the way. If I go out, it's like I'm putting my going out clothes on. They look the same, and to take care of them, right?
Look at this. Eric Sutherland said diesel trucks are destroying our climate. Here we go. Oh my God, I love it, dude. Love it. Yeah, Donald, I know what this means. He says, bro, Clayton, that's amazing. It's amazing that I grew up so redneck. I appreciate that, buddy. Thanks for recognizing. Our shower says that's like giving your daughter a stripper's name. It's not too far off, no doubt. Doug says your family is beautiful, Clayton. I appreciate that, Doug. I love my crew, man. That picture I posted last night on Twitter, though, that's some close friends. We went out and grabbed dinner, and I love them, man.
That was my first reaction. Like, see, someone's got a box of pizza there. It's like some leftovers.
Oh yeah,
I'm a pizza guy. I'll take some good pizza.
we threw it down last night, man. You want to hear a funny story? I don't drink much, right? Like you'll hear me talk about daddy's soda. I'm a lightweight because addiction runs real heavy in my family. But went a little overboard last night, and may or may not have made a trip to the bathroom to throw up a little bit. But hey. Those wings were good, boy. We slammed wings and nachos and cold beer. People were listening going, why am I still listening to this pod? I don't know. We're getting out of here. Tim, appreciate you.
He not only rambled, but he rumbled and stumbled.
Get me talking about biker families, liquor store managers, throwing up in the bathroom at the restaurant.
Yeah, we all know you're going to be waiting in line, first one at the Roadhouse premiere for the new one.
Yeah, it is. That sparked a lot of conversation in my circles for sure. So It does look crappy. I'm not going to lie, guys, but I've got to watch it. My dad will disown me if I don't watch it. Most people were watching cartoons when they were a kid. That was the type of stuff that he had me watching, was Roadhouse and Dances with Wolves and all that.
Yeah, buddy.
We were going on 5-day camping trips, and I'm not talking about your normal camping trips where you're out there hunting. It was just us. Hey, boy, grab a sleeping bag. Let's walk up here in the mountains and spend 5 days. Okay, Pops, let's do it. Grab a gun. Let's roll. So, anyway. Appreciate you guys and gals. This was fun. We'll bring y'all some more information tomorrow about camping and liquor stores and all that good stuff. So we will see y'all tomorrow morning for Good Morning Lambeau. Hopefully we'll have an announcement by then. But like Tim said, I wouldn't expect it. I wouldn't be surprised if it does drag into next week. I think at the earliest, it would probably be around noon tomorrow that they would make an announcement, right? So whenever anything does pop, if I'm near the computer, I will go live and get the info out to you guys so we can chat about it as soon as possible. And Tim, obviously, if you see news drop, just shoot me a text, and if you're available, you can hop on too. So
absolutely.
That being said, we're out of here, guys. Thank y'all so much for hanging out with us. Really appreciate y'all. Appreciate your friendship too, man. This is an awesome crew we got in here. Mike Hebring, thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. Appreciate you always supporting us. We will see y'all tomorrow. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense. We ask our YN or a tight end to open up somewhere between 6 feet and 9 feet to get an isolation with the linebacker. Tell the tackle to take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, to drive down on the first man to his inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here. Try to run this play in the alley.